Welcome back. Today we're out here in the shop again. I gotta get on this truck. I gotta pull the transmission out of this thing so I can send it out to the rebuild shop and then order a clutch. And it looks like there may be a small oil leak coming out of the pan gasket for the engine. So I'm gonna look into that. It's gonna be dark underneath there. I'm gonna put the light under there and try to show you as much as a detail as I can. Like I said, with the limited lighting, it's gonna be hard to see what is going on. Let's get after it. This is Eaton 4 8LL. 8 forward gears, low and low. I'm gonna pull that plug and that one at separate times, so we only got one bucket. I'm gonna let all that fluid out of there into my bucket. Here's the pump that I'm currently running. PTO. Take that off. Some fluid will come out of there when I drop that off. Here's the front end of this air tank. It goes that way to the right about 5 feet probably underneath the truck. The weight's on it. It's definitely 5 feet at least. That air line needs disconnected. There's two behind it to the right that need disconnected, smaller ones. Pretty sure that's the main feed line for the tank. And then this fitting actually just goes back to another fitting on the tank. Once I drop this cross member, I'm gonna open up that other drain plug, see if anything comes out. The next thing I want to do is drop that hydraulic pump. Just wanted to have you see if anything comes out of there. Oh, yep. Hopefully there's enough room in this bucket. There's a plug. Looks like this one does have a magnet on it. Well, there I got the PTO unbolted from the transmission. Right here is where the hydraulic pump, which is everything back here. So that's the hydraulic pump. It bolts on the PTO right there. Somebody made a bracket to bolt on here. And then they just put the, that top bolt looks like this one here. And they just put the bracket on there and then put it all up. Bolted it on there for some extra support, I'm guessing, which is a pretty good idea. That's a lot of weight hanging off of that PTO. I might unbolt that bracket and let this whole thing come down to the floor. It's got them lines on there. They're long enough it can swing out to the side. So long story short, I had to jack up both axles, cage the brakes so I could turn the wheels to spin the drive shaft to get to all the bolts to hold each section together. Crawl under here and show you where I'm at. I got all these bolts loose for the front section, for the front universal joint. But, you know, you break them loose, take that rear section apart, and now this part will turn freely because it's not connected to the back. So I'm going to finish getting those out now. I got the front section of the forward drive shaft down. I just dropped the carrier bearing. I wouldn't call it a bearing because it's just a piece of rubber. Carrier bushing, maybe. Drag it out of here. I got the clutch linkage unhooked. It was way simpler than I thought. It was just a cotter key and a pin that held the linkage to the arm on the transmission. I don't know if I did something different when I pulled the motor out, but it seemed like it was way more involved to get that linkage off than it was. So that took about 3 seconds, and I moved into the cab. So I moved into the cab, I got the shifter off, and I disconnected one of the air lines. Some of the other lines, I can take this panel off. There's just 2 screws here, 2 screws there. The light's still in the way. I don't fit in there very well, but I used to have a fuel tank here, and this is now the battery box, but it was back here. So with the battery box being here, I can take the lid off of it and gain quite a bit of room. So this might be easier than I thought also. So I'm gonna get back to that. I'll let you know what kind of trouble I get into. Nope. Situation like this, the beard is a bad deal. Okay, follow the light here. That's the tower coming down out of the floor. Those 2 wires beside it are you know, I don't know what they are, wire sheaths or whatever. There's little tiny air lines in there. And they connect. You know, one goes that way, I think. Well, that's what you got. I don't believe it's gonna be worth recording while I'm trying to do that. So, whew, that's the best I'm gonna be able to do for you. But I'll let you know when I get them apart. That still didn't take as long as I thought it was going to, but it was a pain in the ass. Because it was still pretty tight. The biggest thing was this blue line. It went to the back of the transmission and over to the passenger side, just over the side of the transmission. I think the only thing I got left that could be a problem is there's another air tank underneath. It's mounted to the, I'd say like frame rail or the bracketry for the hydraulic tank. So it's not technically under the transmission, but when I pull the transmission back to get the shaft out of the clutch, I I think the back of the transmission might run into that other air tank. So I'm going to take that off. It's just a couple of cable straps, and they're all frayed and shitty anyway, so I'm just going to cut them and get new ones for it. So that'll be another improvement. Don't have to worry about that braking going down the road, dragging my air tank, losing brakes and all that jazz. So yeah, I'm gonna call that for now, because when you squeeze this big ass body in between the frame rail and the bottom of this cab, it takes a lot out of you. I got all kinds of stuff going on now. I got the radio on, so I'll probably get spanked for that from YouTube. I got the heater on, so you guys probably can't hear what I'm saying, but we got my Pit Boss pellet smoker grill running. We're gonna smoke up some welfare burgers. I don't know, Johnsonville. Those are pretty good, right? Bacon, cheddar, cheese. Oh yeah. Alright, so I don't know where I'm at in this video as far as piecing it all together, but this is going to be another calling it for the day. So. See, back at it, or still at it, depending. Went and got the transmission jack. I've been doing some work. Got that other air tank out, so air tank, drive shaft, other air tank. You got the PTO and the hydraulic pump down. It's still connected to the hoses. I'm gonna have to disconnect them eventually, but I don't want to screw around with that right now because there's gonna be a lot of fluid coming out of there. We got the tower for the shifter off. I think somebody cut the shifter off. I think it's supposed to be one unit going into the tower, but it's kind of nice. I feel like a lot has changed under here. That second air tank was right here. I was worried this part of the transmission, when I pull it back out of the clutch, was going to hit it. So I just pull it down. There's only a couple of cable straps. I got the bottom half of the bolts for the transmission taken out. I'm getting ready to go squeeze my body in somewhere it doesn't belong to get the top half of the bolts out. But before I do that, I'm going to put the jack under here, get just a little bit of pressure on it so we don't have an incident. I found out, and I just forgotten get in here, see where that socket is. This thing right here, I mentioned before that these transmissions, a lot of them, they just hang on the engine. This one apparently had the goofy spring that bolts on the top of the transmission. It just sets on some ears, one on either side of the transmission. It's not bolted to them ears. That way if it gets to flexing, it's got some spring to it. It's just not hanging on that transmission to break off. So that's nice. My other truck must have had an 86 Peterbilt. That one must have not had this. Here is that goofy spring, I call it, because it's like an upside down leaf spring. Try to get, it's got a deal like that. on both ends. It just bolts to the top of the transmission on the back. And then these ears set on 2 ears that are bolted to the inside of the frame rails. You may or may not have that on yours. If it's not there, somebody probably just said to hell with putting it back on. I think it's in your best interest to have that. So I squeezed in there to get that out. I got all the bolts out of the transmission, and then I took that spring off. As soon as that spring popped loose, the transmission already come apart from the engine. So I shouldn't have too much trouble getting it off, except for the part where it falls on my head. Oh yeah, she's ready to come right out of there. See it move. Okay. This part, it's more apart at the top than it is down here. It's barely apart, but I think I'm gonna get some ratchet straps and go over the top of this transmission. You can secure them right here on both sides. Oh, jeez. Probably not 3 gallons. This was really under dramatic. I think what I need is a bunch of beer right about now. But so I got the hose out of the way. I got that stupid thing hanging on the frame out of the way. Oh, come on. Oh, come on, get going. Just push me back. All right, I'm tired of it. Oh, don't break that off. So that's chain hooked, both ends of the chain hooked on that jack. Got a C-clamp on this pipe. Hopefully it'll hold this chain up long enough to yoink that cocksucker this way. Too high. That didn't work. There. Okay. There she is. When everything's connected, that clutch arm sits like that. It's in, these arms are in behind the throwout bearing. as the transmission goes back away from the engine, you gotta make sure this thing goes like this. You gotta make sure that tips back. It'll probably do it on its own, but if something's fighting you, make sure that's moving as it's coming out. Also, when you're putting it back in, make sure it's like that to start. This thing's gotta be laying flat. Don't put it the wrong way. Have the open end facing the engine, so when you're pushing it in, you gotta make sure that goes in behind the throwout bearing. Or you'll absolutely hate yourself. Don't ask me how I know. Subscribe. You guys gotta start subscribing. There's plenty of you watching. I just subscribe. Leave a comment. Thanks again. See ya.